out of me without making a sound. And yet, I didn't stop. That is what makes this harder to forgive. It wasn't one moment of weakness. It was repeated weakness, repeated dishonesty, repeated cowardice. I kept seeing him. I kept lying. I kept going home to a man who loved me and letting him touch a version of me that was already split in two. There is no peace in living a double life. People think the thrill is the main emotion. It isn't. Maybe at the beginning, for a moment. But after that, it becomes fear. Fear of being seen. Fear of your phone lighting up at the wrong time. Fear of simple questions. Fear of yourself. I started sleeping badly. I became easily irritated. I was defensive over nothing. My boyfriend once held my face and asked me directly, "Are you still with me?" That question still breaks me, because even then, I lied. I looked at someone who had given me real love, and I said, "Of course." I said it so easily. Sometimes I think that was the moment I lost the right to call myself honest. Eventually, the truth came out in the worst, ordinary way. Not through a big confession. Not through courage. He saw enough to understand. A message, a tone, a detail that didn't make sense. I still remember his face. Not angry at first, just hurt. The kind of hurt that makes someone look like the ground inside them has shifted. He asked me how long it had been going on. He asked me if I loved the other man. He asked me why, and I had no answer that wasn't selfish. Because how do you tell someone, "You loved me well, but I was weak, proud, insecure, and hungry for the wrong kind of attention"? How do you say, "I hurt you, not because you failed me, but because I failed myself"? I couldn't say any of that then. So I cried. And sometimes crying is honest, but sometimes it is just another shield. He didn't shout much. That made it worse. He just looked at me with this deep disappointment that felt heavier than insults. He kept asking if any of it had been real between us, and I kept saying yes, because it had been real. That is the terrible part. I did love him in some way, just not with the maturity he deserved, not with the discipline love requires. People speak about love like a feeling, but real love is also restraint, truth, protection. I had the feeling, maybe, but I did not practice the discipline. And without that, what is love worth to the person receiving it? We broke up after that. Not immediately. There were days of talking, crying, silence, trying to understand what had happened. He wanted details. I wanted to hide inside general words. He wanted truth. I wanted escape. He asked if I had ever planned to tell him. I said I didn't know. The real answer was no. I would have kept lying as long as I could manage it. That is something I had to admit to myself later. Not then. Then I still wanted to be seen as flawed, but not cruel. But I was cruel. Maybe not loudly, maybe not intentionally in every moment, but betrayal is cruelty, even when spoken softly. After we ended, I expected to feel relief. Instead, I felt exposed. Like the version of me I had carefully maintained had been torn open. Friends comforted me because they thought I was suffering a breakup. And I was. But not just a breakup. I was also living with the knowledge that I had destroyed something good with my own hands. The other man did not become my future. That part is almost embarrassing now. He faded quickly once secrecy was no longer exciting. What I risked everything for turned out to be thin, selfish, and empty. I was left with nothing meaningful sunshine from it. Just loss. Just regret. Just the humiliating truth that I had damaged real love for something that couldn't survive daylight. That realization changed me, because there is a different kind of shame that comes when you understand your choices were not even rooted in deep passion or pain. They were rooted in vanity, in weakness, in the need to feel desired. That is harder to romanticize, harder to explain away. A year later, I met the man who is now my husband. He is a good man. And here is where my confession becomes darker. He does not know the full truth of who I was before him. He knows I had a serious past relationship. He knows it ended badly. But he does not know why. He does not know that I was the betrayal in someone else's story. I let him believe it was complicated, that we had problems, that things fell apart. All of that is technically true. But it is not the truth. The truth is that I cheated and broke someone who trusted me. And then I carried the cleaner version of the story into a new life. Sometimes I ask myself if that means my marriage is standing on a silence I have never corrected. That thought unsettles me, because I am faithful now. I have been faithful in my marriage. But part of me wonders if being faithful now erases anything from before. I know it doesn't. Growth matters. change matters, but erased? No.